Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. My next guest is a successful entrepreneur, a published author, an empowerment speaker, and a certified life and infidelity recovery coach. Please welcome to the show, DaNay Macklin. Hello, DaNay. Hello, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Orgena. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. It truly is such a pleasure to finally have you on the show so that everyone can really get to hear your powerful story and your amazing work in the world. It really is quite special and quite unique and helps tons and tons of couples, yes?
Thank you. I like to think so, and so I have heard. And so God's definitely taken me on a journey.
I bet. So you have this amazing book called Life After Adultery.
Love After Adultery.
Love After Adultery.
Love After Adultery, the breakthrough journey of the brokenhearted. And it is me and my husband's test turned testimonial. So we really kind of similar to what you do, being able to shine that light.
Yes.
And shine that light for other marriages so that they know that those rocky roads don't have to necessarily end in divorce, but there really can be love after adultery and have a rock solid marriage like never before.
So instead of it just being rocky, it can be rock solid, and you can take the test and turn it into a testimonial, yes?
Absolutely. That's exactly what me and my husband have done. And so now it's becoming my life work to show other marriages how that process looks to be able to recover. And it almost becomes as if it's never even happened. You know, something so devastating like that. Can you just imagine?
No.
It's like it never even took place.
That really, now how is that possible? Because I'm sure we have folks who have gone through devastating divorces, had, you know, heartbreaking moments like that, and how is it possible that it could be like it never even happened?
You know, of course, as they say, time definitely heals all wounds. I think the first thing is that you have to be patient with yourself, but also you really have to be patient with the other individual. And it really boils down to forgiveness, first and foremost, to be able to completely forgive, because what you may find in the process is you may have thought that you've really forgiven, and then something will happen, or, you know, there'll be a trigger, and it's like, okay, you know, back to the drawing board. So really being able to go through a forgiveness process and do the work on your end, and then having that real crystal clear communication with your spouse to understand, you know, why this all took place there. But once you actually do the work yourself and your mate, and you're doing it together, you're going to look back and it's just going to be like it really never even happened.
And this is a kind of step-by-step process. This is actually taking people through. Do you work with them one-on-one first, as a couple, a combination? How do you normally do it?
Well, one of the things I really focus on, that I require in my program, is that they are working with a therapist that specializes in marriage issues, and in particularly those that have worked through adultery, because there's only so much that you can do on a weekly basis. So it's almost as if we're working in conjunction and being able to support and reiterate certain points there on a weekly basis there. So right now, my work consists of predominantly working with the women who have actually gone through this process there, because, you know, it's a lot of things that come up for a woman, going back to their childhood, their values, and then also how we allow society to really, you know, infiltrate us and what we are expected for our relationships to look like. So right now, I'm predominantly working with the women in the marriages now. And then, of course, with the couples therapy, it allows for the both of them to come together and do the work that they need to do.
And DaNay, what would you say are kind of the three biggest reasons? You know, there are a myriad of them, of course, and every couple is different, but what would you say are three kind of top reasons that you know, couples find themselves even facing adultery at all?
You know, the top three is one, really being able to expect the unexpected. They're not prepared. They're not of the mindset of accepting that this could be a reality, because the truth of the matter is you can have a good marriage and this too can happen to you. So people think they're invincible from adultery or infidelity coming into their marriage. And then secondly, it is, you know, we're so controlled, you know, by the flesh, and as far as what's attractive to us there, that we don't really stop sometimes to look at the overall consequences. You know, we want to live in the here, in the now, and maybe the heat of the moment there, because some things have, you know, that sizzle has fizzled out of the marriage pretty much there. So, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, being greedy. But thirdly, what really happens is needs are being neglected. And, you know, it really happened in the case of our marriage, and I'm sure I don't want to go ahead of you, but to touch on it briefly, is that my husband had a need, and he was communicating it to me, and I thought I was being responsive, but I was only temporarily being responsive with him. And so by me not fully fulfilling that need he had, he became, you know, frustrated. He didn't go out seeking this to happen, but then he ended up in a situation of being vulnerable and me not meeting that need. So unmet needs are one of the biggest reasons for an affair to take place.
I think that's huge, and thank you so much for sharing those three things. I think that's really huge, because you said something in the beginning about, you know, even a good marriage could encounter this, but really, you know, it's kind of how you're defining a good marriage. So it could be good, but if there are a number of unmet needs, or even a major unmet need, would you say that you know, that's enough to kind of create the atmosphere and the environment for it to be possible? Absolutely.
And one of the 6 steps that I give in being able to infidelity proof as well as recovery proof your marriage is that crystal clear communication. And in that is not being able to be embarrassed to discuss these things with your spouse, you know. And I'm sure, Gina, you can relate probably in the earlier relationship, you know, we as women, we like to think that men are psychic. He should know.
He should know exactly what I want. They should,
know. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that's very unfair to him, or if the shoe is on the other foot, very unfair to her. So you must really be able to come forth without being embarrassed, and understand that by you not coming forth and confronting and conquering that issue, you're really leaving yourself susceptible to have someone come in and fulfill. Maybe it's an emotional need. It might not just be sexually, but to be able to allow, even if it's one need, that is being unmet out of the 99% of the others, it's still a need that needs to be met, and it needs to be addressed. So yes, you too leave yourself open to have infidelity or adultery really rock your marriage.
And you just bring up a couple of things that I want to, you know, when we come back from our break, I want to go a little bit more into, because, you know, there's a piece around, should we be expecting our mate to fulfill all of our needs? Is that a realistic expectation? And then a couple of other pieces there. So when we come back, we'll get a little bit more into that. We'll get into how, you know, you have done that for yourself and you've helped others to do that, and something that we can all, you know, take with ourselves today to begin to make those shifts. So we'll be right back, and we'll look forward to you coming back with DaNay Macklin.
I need to tell you something. I need to tell you the truth. I need to say what's in my heart, but I don't know if I could. I need to tell you something. I need to tell you the truth, but I'm afraid if I do.
Welcome back, everyone. We are with DaNay Macklin, who is showing us how to affair-proof your marriage, how to really do some very key things to keep your marriage healthy and whole, and keep the other things from showing up in your marriage. So, DaNay, you brought up a really couple of key things, and I want to go a little bit deeper into them, especially around the last piece. Should we be expecting our mate to fulfill all of our needs?
You know, I think that it is, in the relationship, you need to understand what the needs are first. Don't assume. So have you sat down with your husband, or have you sat down with your wife to really understand all of their needs? Now, here's the thing that I suggest to my clients is you make your list of the needs, and then you begin to prioritize those needs there. Because to your point, no, it's absolutely unrealistic to fulfill every single need. But you need to understand, and most importantly, your spouse needs to understand, what are those deal breakers? What are those priorities? What are those things that you are not willing to compromise on, that you really have to need? And then you go down, it's almost like, you know, the A, B, and C in business. You know, I call it prioritizing the priorities, because especially as women, you know, we consider everything to be a priority. But the truth of the matter is, you need to know, again, mostly women that I'm talking to, but you know, it's also, what are those deal breakers? What are the things that you're not willing to compromise on? And then what are more of those B-level items, those things that it's like, you know what, okay, I need for you to meet me in the middle, you know, so I might not be getting everything I want, but I'm having the dialogue and the conversation with, in this case, my husband, because we've actually done this exercise to say, you know what, honey, where can you're not really feeling me on this and meeting me all the way, but where can you compromise, and where can I compromise? And then what happens is we meet in the middle, and then the needs are being fulfilled for the both of us, and it's working for the both of us, instead of just tossing my need to the side.
And you see the effort. You see that the one you love is trying, is you know, seeking to meet you halfway, so to speak. And you've had the conversation, and you also have the awareness for yourself. And I think that's so key. You know, you spoke about, you know, women, as women, many times, you know, they expect their, you know, their other half to just know. But I find that that's even something, perhaps in general, that, you know, that's a kind of general characteristic. And so it shows up very, very strongly in that primary relationship. Would you say?
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, Orgena.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. So it's great that one of the key things you do is have, you know, sit down and make the list. Sit down and get really clear about what are I love the deal breakers. You know, what are those things? It's like, nope, that's just, I can't. But these other ones, they're important to me, but, you know, there's some wiggle room with that a little bit, perhaps.
Exactly. And you know, one of the main things I'll say about it, though, Orgena, what is where we're really battling ourselves, where we're really sabotaging, we're self-sabotaging our relationships, is because we're afraid of hurting the other person's feelings. Okay? So what I'm saying is this: there is no room for embarrassment in your marriage. If you want your marriage or your relationship to work, you really have to come clean with yourself first and say, you know what, regardless if this is something that may not be accepted by society, or if I feel as though I'm going to be judged, because judgment plays a big deal in this. It said, you know what, this list is unapologetically DaNay, unapologetically Orgena, because these are my needs. And I need to be honest and forthcoming with you, because if you kind of go into these conversations half, you know, whatting it pretty much, you know, and not being 50% honest and not 100% honest, then guess what? You're still leaving that door to infidelity or adultery to come in, and then you're back to this conversation all over again when you could have been honest up front.
Yeah, and would you agree with the statement, I remember being told this many years ago, would you agree with the statement that infidelity is simply a symptom? It's not the issue. It's a symptom of a deeper issue. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? With, you know, the clients that I have been working with, it's just that recently I was referred to a woman, and I'm listening to her story uninterrupted, and I'm hearing the deeper rooted issues. She's talking to me more on the surface, but because I now have more of a trained ear for this, I'm kind of taking notes of the deeper issues. And then when she finished, I took it back to asking her, if you don't mind me asking, what role do you feel as though you've played in this? And that's the bigger issue, is accountability.
Yes.
We don't want to be accountable or even imagine that we could have played a part in causing this to have happened. So no, Orgena, you are 100% accurate in that statement.
Yeah, and I love that you're speaking now to the blame piece, because I believe that's exactly then where things get stuck, and then usually the folks are walking away from one another. It's because it just gets into a one-way street blame. So the person, the party who has, you know, done the adultery, so to speak, or had the infidelity, you know, whatever that is, has cheated, whatever that is, they now become the blamed party, but it was a two-way street that created that scenario, yeah?
Absolutely, and I have a whole chapter in my book dedicated to just that, the blame game.
Yes.
Because it happens every single time it happens,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it happens by default, because we are kind of trained that way, that when someone cheats, oh, it's all on them.
Yeah,
how
they're
dare
a
them
cheater.
do this?
They're
You know,
a liar and
like,
a cheater and a this. Yeah.
Right, we want to be the victim.
Right.
We want to be the victim,
Right.
okay? So we need to place the blame somewhere. So instead of being an adult about this and stepping back, of course, it hurts at first, and it doesn't feel good. And yes, you are going to be the victim initially, but you need to stand up and look in that mirror. And can you say, you have done everything in your power not to be a part of this? And in most cases, that's not true, because again, it goes back to just what you said. There is, it's not a symptom, it's a deeper rooted issue that's going on. And so we need to, you know, peel back the onion, peel back those layers, and then say, you know what, and in particular, in my case, I was a workaholic. And when I found out about my husband's affair, of course I wasn't happy. I was crushed, I was depressed, I was all of those things. But when I had stepped and looked in that mirror and I said, you know what, has my husband been trying to communicate this to me? Has he been coming to me saying, DaNay, close the laptop, DaNay, cut off the cell phone, DaNay, you know, are we going to watch this movie uninterrupted? And, you know, trying to get that time that he desired, and most of all that he needed, but that he deserved. And I had to be honest. Now I will say this, he decided to cheat. That was on him at the end of the day of his decision. However, the truth of the matter is, if I was emotionally available to my husband and fulfilling his needs, I guarantee you, and I know that's a strong guarantee, but I guarantee you that he would not have had an affair. And so there are so many marriages out there that are dealing with this very thing. And so we need to look internally and ask ourselves, what part did I potentially play in this affair?
And I thank you for making that distinction, because of course it's not to excuse the choice that was made, and it was a poor choice, you know, but it's also to honor the fact that it again is a symptom of what has been going on, and it's been leading up to that. So, you know, I think it's wonderful that you are being so vulnerable and have shared your own journey, but have taken that and now help to strengthen others in their relationships and their marriages. And so I would love, you know, when we come back, to just get a little bit more around what could you share with our folks today who are listening, who are watching, to, you know, already begin. Like, many folks are not even in a relationship. Maybe they are recently divorced because of an affair or something like that. What could you give them in terms of, you know, a hope for their next relationship or the new ones that they're in, or to just already begin creating it differently? Because I'm sure you would agree that's now the place that a lot of people are at. Maybe they are past the affair. And what I love about what you do is both the before and after. So you're about prevention and recovery. So when we come back, I want to get a little bit more into both of those sides and what you can share with us today, okay, specifically to do. All right.
Absolutely.
So we will be right back with DaNay Macklin.
If I say what's on my mind, will you leave? Will you turn and walk away and out the door? Will you say it's too much for you to handle, and you need to take some time, or you don't want want me anymore.
We are back and speaking with DaNay Macklin, who is the author of Love After Adultery, really sharing with us how to affair-proof your marriage. So DaNay, again, the work that you're doing I just think is so powerful and so amazing. And what I love specifically that you're about is both prevention and recovery. So how to prevent an affair, and then if you've experienced one, how to recover from one. As you said, it doesn't have to mean the end of your marriage. It doesn't have to mean divorce. So can you share with us some specific things too, and some situations that you've taken people through to get them to the other side?
Sure. Well, one of the first things on a preventative side of it, and then of course these tips still do apply to the recovery aspect as well. So
Sure.
In the book, I talk about 10 steps. I'll give you 6 of the 10 steps for time's sake.
Beautiful.
The first one is that you have to prioritize your marriage. You know, in this day and age, and of course I don't have to tell you, but we have so many things
Yeah.
pulling for our time, you
Yeah.
know. We have our own personal commitments, you know, we have, you know, those of us that have children, you know, we have their social activities,
Sure.
you know, and
Sure.
everything else, not to mention work. So sometimes we put our marriages on the back burner.
Right.
So really you have to take it off the back burner,
Yeah.
put it on the front burner,
Yes.
and say, okay, how am I going to make my marriage consciously with effort a priority? So the first one is prioritizing your marriage.
Love it.
Secondly is you have to avoid temptation. Do not put yourself into situations that can potentially, you know, make you available to
Yeah.
being able to commit an affair. You know, if you're a woman, or, you know, if you're a man and you have this attractive coworker, you know, you really shouldn't be going to lunch with them. And it might seem like, oh, it's a harmless lunch,
Yeah.
but when you're sharing so much of yourself, you first open the door to an
Yes.
emotional affair,
Yeah.
and then typically after an emotional affair becomes the sexual affair. So the second one is avoid temptation. And then thirdly is really understanding your boundaries, understanding what's expected as far as from your significant other, to say, you know what, I really don't want you to maybe do this with the opposite sex or the same sex there. So really setting some boundaries
Yes.
for your marriage is number 3. And then number 4 is crystal clear communication and not allowing yourself to think he or she should know. No, they should not know. You should communicate to them
Yes.
very clearly who you are, what your expectations are all about, so then they can get the big picture and be able to adhere
Yes.
to your expectations. 5th is date your mate.
I love that. I love that. That's great. Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. You know, you don't want to leave out that fizzle. You want to bring in the sizzle. You want to keep hot. You want to keep it sexy. And how are you going to do that? You know,
Right.
you really have to date your mate. So
Right.
that's pretty self-explanatory. And then
Love it.
last but not least, I think one of the biggest things is in marriages, we cannot allow it to be reactive. We have to be as proactive as possible. So when you think of large corporations, they have board of directors, or they have a board with very specific individuals to support their endeavors. So it's kind of like creating your board of directors for your marriage. And on that board, you need to have a therapist. You know, don't wait until the you know what hits the fan. You know, say, okay, let me scope out, or let me ask for some referrals of
Right.
some counselors who specialize in marital issues. So that way, when you see that you and your spouse are not getting through to one another,
Right.
you don't really have to wait until things are rocky to go in and start trying to be proactive. And then also getting a certified relationship coach such as myself to be able to work along with those counselors and that therapists, and then having, you know, a couple that mentors you, someone who has been there and done that and come out on the other side. So
Yes.
now you have a couple mentor, you have a counselor, you have a coach. You are really setting your marriage up to be successful at this point, to, you know, not just survive, but
Right.
ultimately be able to thrive.
Oh my goodness, DaNay, that is chock full. That last one is phenomenal. I mean, all of them are great. All of them are great. But that one, I don't think most of us have even thought about, like actually creating a team, like a support team for your marriage. And it's interesting because, you know, if we all think back to the wedding, right, the wedding day, that's what all of those folks are there for, and everyone agreed in whatever way that you know, celebrated your wedding day. Everyone was in agreement to support you, to, you know, strengthen, to help you in your marriage, and to be a witness to that. So how powerful could it be to actually create your team, your support team? Like really utilize that rather than just have it be a nice thought for the day and everyone in their pretty dresses and tuxes or whatever. So, oh my God, I think that's really, really, really phenomenal, astronomical. Great advice.
And you know, one of the other things too, Orgena, that I actually thought about was, you know, the biggest piece of all of this is the shame. It's not only the blame,
right,
but it's shame.
Right.
And so, you know, even though you have all of those friends and family to support you, you don't really want to take anything to anyone to really discuss it, because now you have to really deal with those, you know, kind of skeletons in the closet that you don't want to talk about.
Right.
So let me just say this. No, you absolutely don't go out to the public and just share your business openly. You want to make sure that you have that board of marital members to support your marriage, so that way you're strategic in who you're going to, because you know that A, they have your best interest at heart, and B, because they have been there and done that and can give you some guidance, and C, they're not going to judge you. So then that way you don't have to worry about the shame and the blame.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification, because I do believe that is what keeps most people from going to get help. And then it's so big and it's a mess because now you haven't been getting any help and support along the way, or even the kind of support that can really, you know, help you to stand and stay strong in whatever you're dealing with. So I think that's really key. Make sure you're going to like people who really are specialists in these things, and you know, like yourself, a certified, you know, a counselor, a certified person to bring you through situations like this. I think that's really key, really powerful. Wow, wow. All right, and so would love for you to, you know, just give us a taste of anyone that you've worked with, and a couple, and how it's been for them now on the other side.
You know, I think in particular, one with a very similar story, where before they had actually gotten to me, they had been going through this and trying to do it themselves for 2 years. And over the course of 2 years, they had really been just belittling each other, just, you know, really killing and crushing their marriage, instead of going to get support that they needed there. So by the time the couple got to me there, they had already met with the lawyer, met with the attorney, and was ready to sign those papers. And so my first question was, when you both look in the mirror, can you honestly say, I have done everything? There is nothing left for me to do to save my marriage. Now, if you can do that, then maybe I can understand signing these papers there. But if you have not exhausted every single option, then I am going to really challenge you to put those papers on hold, and let's work together through this. So, you know, they have been working through my book, and now my workbook that I have created to go along with the book, so that they can work at their own pace through this. And now it has really turned around, because they've been able to be honest. Before, they were partially being honest, and, you know, he was afraid of getting, you know, hit over the head with just all of the belittling that she was doing, and she wasn't realizing that she was doing that. So they were able to approach this situation from a non-judgmental, a confrontational standpoint, and being able to really address those issues. So now they are seeking counseling, every single week there, and they're really rebuilding that trust and that forgiveness there. So they're almost to the other side at this point, when just, a few months ago, they were about to get a divorce. So things are turning around rather nicely, and I'm going to speak it into existence. And I do feel very, very confident that they will not be getting a divorce, that they will be saving their marriage at this point.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful, wonderful, DaNay. I want, we're going to, of course, have the links to your book and so forth, so people can definitely have access to this really powerful information and the work that you're doing. And I love hearing that you have a workbook now. That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, so that people can, work at their own pace. But it's true how important it is to have someone guide you through that, because the last piece of this for me is around, there are lots of folks out there who necessarily, they're a coach or they're a therapist or they're this, but it's really important to have someone who specifies in this, right? Who's really an expert in this particular situation and actually has success with it, yeah?
Yeah, and I think that this is where I differ. This is where I really consider it to be, if you will, my value proposition and what I offer that makes me different.
Yes.
But really that makes me whole is because I'm not, and don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with academics, because you can learn a lot out of a book. I'm not saying that.
Yes.
But for people, who are going through this amount of tragedy and devastation in their marriage, they need to be able to speak to someone to, in our situation, offer hope to the hopeless at that point, because you do feel very hopeless. So for me and our marriage and being able to, we didn't just survive this thing. We are now thriving and successful. Like I said, it's almost as if it didn't even happen.
Wow.
And you could not have told me years ago that I would be able to say that, because I was a hot mess.
Yes.
I really was. And so I really have found that in this case, when you're dealing with this level of devastation, you need to have either a counselor or a coach has personally been there and done that, because if they have not, then all they are doing is speculating and, based upon some textbook information, and sometimes that textbook information is not accurate. How often do we say, and this is why I say never, but how often do we say, well, if this happens, I'm going to do this, and then when that happens, you don't do that, and you need help. You
don't do that. Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's really, really powerful. I can't thank you enough, truly, for for coming on the show, for sharing your wisdom and your expertise and your very personal experience. And I can't, advocate enough for people to get help, work with you, work with, again, someone who's specific, because I think a lot of people go to people and they just don't really know how to help them. So to have someone like you who really knows intimately how, having gone through it yourself, how to guide people through it, I think that's so powerful. And I really thank you for being with us and sharing all of your thoughts with us today. What would be some final words that you would like to share with our viewers?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's just been an absolute honor and privilege to be amongst your wonderful platform and what you're doing there. So I love the work that you're doing first and foremost. So again, thank you. I would say that my closing remarks would be for couples to really just look deeply, to really go down to who are you at your core, and really being honest with yourself, because until you are honest and authentic with yourself, you're not going to be able to have these successful relationships. So it might not be an intimate relationship with that significant other, but it's also really going to impact your relationships that you have socially, your friendships and things. So at the end of the day, are you being your most authentic, true self at your core?
Right.
And I hope that that answer is yes. But, if it's not, one of the things I have is a tool to help you understand who you are at your core, so that way we can have these successful relationships that we're trying to have. So, be unapologetically you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Be unapologetically you. Excellent, excellent. And that tool, is that the lovely gift that you're sharing with everyone?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Your viewers will be able to go to my website and they'll be able to sign up for a pretty comprehensive assessment on their core values. And it's not your typical, Myers-Briggs or anything like that.
Right.
This is some really good scientific, nitty-gritty, like who are you at the end of the day?
Right.
And what places are you most successful? But most of all, it helps to uncover those vulnerabilities that we normally don't want to deal through and work through. So it's a wonderful assessment to be able to put you on the table and say, hey, this is who I am. Let's love me at the end of the day, and let's figure out how to work through some things that may not be successful or be serving me or my spouse in this relationship, and how to work that out.
Beautiful. And where can they find that?
So be able to go to my website, which is www.DaNay, D-A-N-A-Y, Macklin, MACKLIN.com. And if they click in the upper right-hand corner there and just enter their information, they'll be able to download as far as that assessment.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, we'll have the links for you all to DaNay so that you can absolutely connect with this powerful woman and her work in the world. DaNay, thank you so much again. Really grateful that you could be here. All right, and thank you all for being with us. And we will be right back. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today on our show. I really hope that there was something shared that really helps you shine your biggest and brightest light. Please stop by again, like us on Facebook, tweet us, all of those good things. And most importantly, please always remember, it's all about love.